and they tend to shatter, especially if you're feeling a little nervous and doing this for the first time, and you jiggle this from side to side. You know, you can have these discs break on you. So you want to be wearing good eye protection. And if you're a little nervous about cutting and want to do some test cuts, so to speak, you may want to take a piece of paper like this, put spray adhesive, put a few pieces of ties on, some PC ties on, and then take a couple of rails and just solder them to the PC ties, kind of, keep them parallel to each other, maybe not like this, but about a 1/16 of an inch apart or an 1/8 of an inch apart, and just cut gaps in it, just as a test, just to get an idea of how your Dremel moto tool is going to pull when it starts cutting into the rail, to get a feel for it. So you may want to set up a test paper and just cut gaps in rails that are soldered parallel to each other, about an 1/8 inch apart, 1/8 to a 1/16 inch apart, and just get a feel for it. So, okay, and what I'm going to do, and I usually hold. Oops, let me back up a little bit so you can see what I'm doing there. Okay. This is how I usually hold the moto tool when I'm doing this. Hold it back here, palm on the paper. Okay. That kind of keeps it from moving around. Okay. Like this. And I just kind of pivot. Just holds it in place, and you kind of use this hand as a pivot and just drop down like that. Okay, now let's go ahead and do that. Again, make sure you got eyewear, good eye protection, eyewear, swimwear, whatever, good eyewear protection. Eye protection, I'm babbling. This is Christmas morning. I had someone send me an email and ask me, whether I dropped the series, because I kind of took a little bit of a detour, a little break from doing it, and did something else for a bit. And they said in this email, it says, yeah, I got 6 of them built, and I'm waiting for you to finish the series so I can finish my turnout. So, okay. So this is it. This is my Christmas present to you. The finished video series, so you can finish your turnouts. Okay, let's go. Turn this thing on. Well, we got to plug it in first. Boy. Okay. Let me do that. Okay, come on. Get in there, huh? They say you can't cook a chicken until you put it in the oven. Alright. Here we go. That's it. Okay, let me do the other one. And you want to cut fairly quick. You don't want to be too, well, you don't want to be too slow, because what will happen is that the wheel will heat up the rails. That'll melt the solder, and the friction of the cutter against the rail may knock the rail out of place. So you want to kind of balance between going too slow and going too fast. Like I say, that's something you may want to practice on a separate piece of paper with some rails, just so you can get comfortable with it. Okay, now I'm going to cut this one. I'm trying to decide here. Okay, here we go. Okay, now I didn't quite go all the way through. That's not necessarily a bad thing either. I can do, I don't want to, if you don't go all the way through, when you cut it, you probably don't want to try cutting it again. I mean, if you cut it all the way, almost all the way, then it's probably safer to go ahead and you just take take this razor blade, there, finish it off like that. There's just a little thin strip of metal through here, so occasionally that may happen, and the reason why you don't want to try going at it again with the cutter is that you may not line it up right. You end up with a much bigger gap that way. I mean, no matter what you do, it's going to grind against the rails, and you'll end up with a gap that's just a little bit too big. So, and that looks like that worked okay. Yeah. Cut the gap there. Cut the gap there. And again, when you get this thing off, you can work on it some more to make sure that the frog is completely electrically isolated. But like I say, just in case, if you don't go all the way through, use other means to try to cut through the rail, because you'll end up making the gap too wide as you try to fit the cutter back in to that gap. So